tough. Yeah. I was in a very abusive relationship where I lost my voice. Where I mean, literally, like, couldn't talk out. Hid a lot of stuff from like family members, like how the relationship was, and I was that type of person. Like, if I ever get in a relationship, like, that's never gonna happen to me. Do you know what I mean? But clearly, it did. So yeah, it was tough because I felt like I lost who I was. I couldn't be me. I was like with a person that they literally had to be with me 24/7. So like if I go to work, I come home, they want to come to my house, or I gotta go to their house, and it was just like sometimes I just need a minute. And it got so overbearing. It got to a point where I think, right, is this what a relationship is? Like every, like, if I go work, yeah. And it was just like, and the thing is, for me, it's like, if I'm in a relationship and I'm with someone regular, it's fine if it's healthy. It's fine if it doesn't feel like a chore. Like, it's fine if it's not like, wow, okay, I've got to kind of prepare myself, I've got to gear myself up, like, to go to, if it doesn't feel like that, then that's fine. But if it feels like where I have to prepare myself, like it's a chore that I'm dreading doing, yeah, that's just, and I was living that life for like 5 years, you know, and it's just like, I look back at it now and think, wow, like, why did I do that? But I have to remind myself I had to do it because I hadn't learned yet. You stay in a situation, in a relationship, because you haven't learned yet. Like, you have to have a number of lessons and exposure to things until you fully understand it.
You overstand it now.
Overstand it. And yet you have to continue, you have to remember that if you haven't left something, it's because you ain't learned the lesson. Do you know what I mean? And even I can think 5 years is a long time. It was a long time that I just hadn't learned. I hadn't had that lesson that made me think, do you know what, this ain't for me. Like, I need to be out.
That doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Sometimes that could seem like, wow, someone wants to be with me all the time. Sometimes we like that. Yeah,
and that's what it is. It was acceptance, and also what I've like recently admitted to myself. I think, bloody hell, like, that's probably what it is. Like, growing up, like, without my dad, everyone used to say, you know, not me personally, but we'll hear the phrase like daddy issues. Oh, what's that? Kind of thing. Because to me, it's like, I always grew up, like, the last time I saw my dad was like nearly 23 years ago. And I remember that last time I did see him, middle of Brixton. I was like, yeah, I want to come and see you tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. So I'm 13, excited, oh, my daddy's gonna come. So I remember waiting in my living room, and outside of my living room, the window, you can see the car park. So I'm waiting for his car to park up. The whole day went by, the whole day. I remember it was, can't remember the date, but I remember it was August, because my brother had just had his first child. So I was an auntie, so I was excited. I was like, I'm gonna tell my daddy I'm an auntie, my brother had a And the whole day I was like waiting for my dad to come. And obviously my mum knew he wasn't gonna come because she knows what he's like. But credit to my mum, she never badmouthed him. Like, she never badmouthed my dad to say, oh yeah, your dad's this, your dad's that, rare. Like, you know, how some households might, you know, she never did that.
That's important, actually.
Yeah.
It means she's giving you space for you to make your mind up.
And I think that's so important. And I say that to everybody that as friends who've got children, like, don't make that decision for them. Like, make them see that for themselves. I think it's so important, because they can always turn around and say, well, you stopped me from seeing my dad. Even though you didn't, but they might look at it as that was your intention. Yeah. The thing is, I didn't move from that spot because I was like, my dad's gonna come, my dad. I don't remember going to the toilet that day. I think it was from maybe 9, 10 in the morning till probably about 7, 8 at night. Stayed the whole, I think my mum had come, gave me some drink and food or something, but I didn't move. I did not want to move. And then after when I realised he wasn't coming, I thought, okay, cool. And I was like, done. I was like, alright, cool. And I thought, yeah, just, you know, it's gonna be me and my mum. I had my older brother, and I thought, oh, cool, that's it. And I never ever, a funny thing, me and my mum never had that conversation about that day. It was kind of like, that was it. Just move on, boom, gonna do what I need to do. And I realised from that time, I think 15 was probably the first time I had a boyfriend. So obviously from that, and then the guys I've been with made me think, why are these guys like this kind of thing? Like, they had good traits about them, but they had also not so nice traits. And a lot of their traits was very controlling. And I was kind of like, okay, cool, like, you know, I'll play to your tune. And I think when I thought about that day about my dad, I think what I was potentially trying to find in these men is acceptance. And I think the term daddy issues maybe need to be renamed in like you're trying to find that acceptance from a male perspective. And I think that's what, even though I was fortunate enough to kind of grow up with like older uncles, older cousins. When I went to youth club, I had certain youth, so I knew what a good man looked like, or what a man who tries to be as good as they can be look like and represent. Because what I didn't ever do with all the guys I've been with, I never ever say, oh well, you're just like the rest of them. I never ever compared them to anybody else. Like, I took them as them.
Did you do that intentionally or unintentionally?
What, to not judge them?
Yeah,
or,
like where did you get that from?
because I just think me personally, I just grew up like to think I can't judge someone if I don't know them. Do you know what I mean? And again, I think that was just from me being that person. Because my mum would be probably more like, oh, come on, like, you know what men are like, rah, 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 rah. So even though she didn't badmouth my dad, she would be like, oh, but you know what men can lie, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, but not everyone must be like that. Do you know what I mean? Not every man must be like that. So I tried to be as positive as I can be and not make a judgment before knowing the person. But then what I think I did was the opposite, where I kind of opened up like my heart too much and thinking that person was going to be giving me that same kind of love that I was giving to them. But again, I think it was to try and find that acceptance which I was missing from my dad, which is weird. And it's taken me to get to this age for me to realise that's probably what it's been.
Mad. It's not mad actually, it's actually, it makes sense.
Yeah, so, because I always used to laugh at that comment, daddy issues. What are you talking about? I thought you got feisty, but I get it now. It's weird, but I get it because it's just like, even if there are dads around their daughters, but don't have a healthy relationship.
I was about to say, they also have daddy issues.
There you go.
It's how you relate to that male figure,
Yeah.
primary male figure in life, which is your dad.
Quality of relationship.
Exactly.
That
And
means
it
both
matters
of
if
your
he's
needs.
there, and it matters if he's not there, but there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Because he might have a presence
Yeah.
there, but he's not literally interested in what you are actually doing. So, yeah.
The fact that he's not there, do you think that served you in the way it served you now? Like the place you're in now, would you change that?
I think, 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 I think,
the primary experience?
By wanting my dad there?
Yeah. Like, if you could go back, would you want him in your life?
Do you know what? I had a phrase in my head that I come up with the other day. Like, inconsistency is not good, innit? If you're gonna stay out, at least that's consistent. So the one thing you did do was stay out, and that was consistent. So I can't be mad at you for being consistent and not being around. It's probably better that you were consistent that way than coming in and out.
Yeah. And breaking your heart multiple times.
Exactly. And I think that's better. And I think it's like when you're in a toxic relationship and you keep going back and forth, you break up, you get back together, you break. That's not healthy. Like, if a person say, you know what, I'm out, boom, done, that's consistent. And then that's when you need to go through that, okay, go through the heartbreak, you go through like acknowledgement, this is happening now, I've got to go get through it. And then you've got to kind of rebuild yourself up again. And that's what you have to do. And I think that's why a lot of people go in and out of relationships all the time. Because I've been single for like 3 years. And people are like, oh, but why are you single? I said, you know what? I'd rather be single and wait for the person I'm supposed to be with